and predict whether or not that'll be a problem again this year. So we begin with the Ravens. Their weakness was their secondary last season. They allowed the second most pass yards in the league and allowed 63 completions, at least 15 yards downfield, tied for the third most. They also ranked 20th in touchdown to interception ratio allowed. Mina, do you expect that to improve this season?
I do, because they already fixed it last season. In the second half of the season, after the Ravens shifted some of their starters, they moved Kyle Hamilton back to play free safety. They became the best pass defense in football, first in opponents' points per game, first in EPA per play, first in success rate. Now you throw in their top draft pick, Malachi Starks, into the mix, and I think they're going to pick up right where they left off. I expect this defense to be very good this season.
To another Super Bowl contender's weakness, we go to Buffalo, where the Bills couldn't stop great quarterbacks last season. Their defense ranked last in opponent total QBR when facing a quarterback who made the playoffs last season. They also ranked 26th in yards per attempt and 23rd in touchdown to interception ratio. Mike, will they turn that around this season?
Yeah, I think they will. They put a lot of resources into that defensive line, drafting multiple players in T.J. Sanders, Deion Walker, Landon Jackson, and then you could look at the veterans here at Joey Bosa. And don't forget, they also drafted Max Harrison, first rounder, who's hurt right now. But all those resources, if they're just average, I think that will go a long way to the problems on that side of the ball.
The speed of Harrison is impressive when he gets healthy. All right, another contender, Detroit. Let's talk about their weakness, where the Lions' pass rush was a problem last season, which is understandable with the injuries they dealt with, most notably Aiden Hutchinson missing the final 12 games with a fractured tibia and fibula. They ranked 25th in pass rush win rate and sacked the quarterback at the 5th lowest rate in the NFL. Graz, will the Lions get after quarterbacks better this season?
Yeah, if they can stay healthy. I mean, you mentioned Aiden Hutchinson missing the last 12 games. He still managed to lead their team in sacks. They had injuries all across that defensive line. Marcus Davenport, another player they're hoping to get more out of. He's back healthy. So really for the Lions, it's about the health of Aiden Hutchinson and those around him up front. They have a new defensive coordinator, obviously, with Aaron Glenn leaving to coach the Jets, but I don't think it'll be about scheme. I think it'll be about the health of their pass rushers, which they did not have last year.
Let's go to Cincinnati, where the Bengals' offense wasn't good enough to overcome how bad their defense was, and that Bengals' offense was great. They scored at least 30 points 8 times last season and still managed to go 500 in those games. The 5 other teams that scored 30 points at least 8 times went a combined 44-5 for reference. The Bengals' 4 losses in this scenario are tied for the most in a season in NFL history, along with the 2002 Chiefs. Thank goodness they got a deal done with Trey Hendrickson. Here's head coach Zach Taylor today.
Good to get him, practice these last 2 days, yesterday and today. So it's great to for him to put the pads back on and go rush the passer and play the run and then get this weekend to recalibrate again. He's been in all the meetings, so he hasn't missed anything. He's up to speed at all. It's just physically been doing it with the other 10 guys on defense. But happy to have him back. He looked great in practice yesterday, almost like he didn't miss a beat.
Okay, that's impressive. Taylor clearly happy to have Hendrickson back, and I don't blame him. Mina, do you think the Bengals will be improved on the defensive side of the ball this season?
I struggle to see where that improvement is coming from. I mean, it's not coming from having Hendrickson, because they had him last year and they were still terrible, and he led the league in sacks. So even if he is as good as he was last year as a pass rusher, they're not going to be better. I don't think it's going to come from free agent additions, because they really didn't make any outside of, T.J. Slayton on the defensive line. If it does come, Laura, it has to come from development of the young players. And that's not just their first-round draft pick this year, Shamar Stewart or Demetrius Knight, who I think is going to play. The players who they've drafted over the last 3 years need to develop in a way that they hadn't under the previous defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. That, to me, is the only way this defense improves upon what we saw last year. And the early returns in the preseason don't look like that's going to happen immediately, but perhaps by midpoint in the season or as it rolls along, we'll see some development.
I agree with Mina. This really has to be the Kansas City Chiefs East. Look, Patrick Mahomes justifiably gets the headlines, but one of the reasons they've had such success is all the young players Kansas City hit defensively. And when you think about the Cam Taylor-Britts, the DJ Turners, the Dax Hills of the world, those are the key guys for the Bengals, because when you're paying all those players on offense and Trey Hendrickson, that's the only way you're going to have sustainability. And the old Bill Walsh axiom, pass to score, fourth quarter pass rushers, and you just hope now with Trey Hendrickson and rookie Shamar Stewart, they could rush the passer in the fourth quarter. Because, Laura, to your stat, when you score in the 30s, that should be more than enough to win, your fair share of games.
Yeah, and that offense is picking up right where it left off. The Bengals, Graz, moved on from their longtime defensive coordinator, Lou Anarumo. They brought in Al Golden to take over. What have you heard about that transition?
It's a completely different scheme that they've spent the offseason learning, and I think it's important to note, and they've said this outwardly, that they did not want to show anything about it in the preseason games. They didn't game plan for the opponent. They didn't do anything complex. They didn't work on disguises. They wanted to be as vanilla as possible. The reports from practice have been that the defense has held up pretty well against Joe Burrow and the first-team offense. They're excited for what some of these young players can be in Al Golden's system. Obviously, the proof will be in the pudding, but I would caution to say that just because they got beat up in the preseason games doesn't necessarily mean that's what they're going to look like when the real games start. That's at least what they're hanging their hopes on.
Yeah, Graz, I did one of those preseason games and talked a lot with the Bengals prior to the game. T. Higgins told me that practice has been a lot more back and forth than it had been previously, that the defense had been really a lot more competitive. And I don't think they're saying that stuff lightly, but again, we're going to have to see what it actually looks like on the field. They do play the Browns week 1, so maybe that's a good place to start. All right, still to come. Things look a little different in San Francisco after some key offseason moves, but someone here thinks
when you're winning, people look at you and are like, you're the villain. Cut the camera quick.
It's an emotional game.
Win or lose, the team will never be the same.
How about those?
ESPN Fantasy Football, the #1 fantasy game. The season is right around the corner, literally a week away, people. Download the ESPN Fantasy app to play or sign up now and get your league started at espn.com/fantasyfootball. The breaking news of today from Graz, Todd Archer, and Adam Schefter: the Cowboys officially listening to trade offers for Micah Parsons. Willing to listen, the exact phrasing there. We'll keep an eye on it. The team would like to receive some sort of, resolve the situation in the coming days, one way or the other, and it needs to happen sooner rather than later because the season's coming up right around the corner. So I think we'd all be surprised if that happened, if the Cowboys traded away Parsons. But let's talk about some more surprises, okay? Graz has an article right now on ESPN.com where he made bold predictions for every team in the league. So Graz, take us through a couple of the things we shouldn't be shocked by if they happen this season.
We shouldn't be shocked if you find out I actually have a neck, unlike that that
It's a
picture.
great picture, though. Like that.
No, I don't know if I agree with that. Anyway, don't be surprised if Jordan Love is in the MVP race. And I base this prediction on my belief that the Green Bay Packers are going to have a very good team. They had the youngest roster in the league last year. The only teams they lost to in games they were actually trying to win were the Eagles, the Vikings, and the Lions, who are the 3 best teams in the NFC. If they can play those teams a little bit tougher, you have a team that could compete for a lot in the NFC and possibly get to the Super Bowl. If that were to happen, their quarterback's going to be an MVP candidate. Don't be surprised if the Houston Texans have the league's best defense. This defense has stars all over it. On the back end, you have Kamari Lassiter, you have Derek Stingley. On the front end, you have Will Anderson Jr., you have Daniil Hunter. They are deep in the middle of the defense. This is coached by D'Amico Ryans. We know how they're going to play. This could be the best defense, a dominant one in the NFL. And I would not be surprised to see the 49ers back in the Super Bowl. They have guys back healthy like Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams. George Kittle's still on this team. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner. A lot of focus this offseason on who they've lost, but the 49ers are still a team that when McCaffrey and Trent Williams have been able to stay healthy, have been a Super Bowl contender and have gotten really as close as anybody else has ever gotten to winning it without actually doing that.
Graz, these takes are a little spicy. I like it. Really good. Kind of like that necklace photo. The 49ers, by the way, coming off a challenging year, filled with injuries and departures, but GM John Lynch has a positive outlook on their current roster.
There is a lot of youth on this team. There's a lot of opportunity, with youth. The expectation, the standard doesn't change, and man, they've got great examples of guys who've done it at a high level in this league, so that's really cool for these guys. But you don't expect for it to go perfectly. But we're excited about what this group has infused into our team. We're excited about